Chapter 13.
The mattress needs to be antimatter, or else I can't sleep.
He was trying out the not-so-comfortable bed in the hotel room they had just arrived at. He gazed at the ceiling, stretched out his arms, and wondered how he could hack around the security system of Ulrich's brain augmentation to implement a virus that oxidized the iron in one's body, damaging the muscle tissue. His brain augmentation probably wouldn't even predict such an unlikely event. He had already accepted the fact that there probably wasn't a single way he could take out the super-powerful cop quickly.
We don't really have any water or food here. Do you think we should walk to the store or order some from the hotel?
Kaido had dressed his pants and was walking around the hotel room in his dark red underpants.
Just order some from the reception.
He was observing a $1 bill. The currency of the West. He was looking at the eye that embellished the note, and it seemed peculiar to him. He wondered if there was a way to watch people through the eye of a dollar bill, like a psychic power or an AI-simulated vision of the person of interest. The fourth world of Buddhism? He woke up as a strong stream of cold black water carried him away through the nighttime streets of the West. He could feel the moon shining above. Surrounded by darkness, he was trying to hold his head above the water, his body scraping the concrete walls of the buildings. A tsunami must have ripped me out of the hotel room while I was sleeping. He reasoned, still confused about what was going on. His fingers tried to grab hold of skinny metal railings, but the water kept violently tearing his body sideways. He woke up in his bed on the antimatter mattress he had demanded.
Oh, a dream? It was just a dream. I must have fallen asleep while Hokkaido was getting groceries. Lordy, give me a visualization of my brain activity from the nap I just took.
Mental images appeared in his visual cortex.
This dream did not use the memory parts of the brain? If my mind wished to produce a vision of the future, it would have certainly used the temporal lobe. The future uses memories in a visual. Morty dismissed the brain images.
Lordy was one of the nicknames for Key's brain augmentation he himself had modified and reprogrammed. It was a funny word, but he liked how the word rolled off the tongue. After all, his cyberbrain was observing his well-being and safety. The door opened and Hokkaido walked in with a grim grin on his face. He could see men in suits standing outside his room door. The door closed.
And you are already in trouble, Key. Well, somewhat. Don't worry. Those are our boys out there. They are there just in case. The boss will try to arrange diplomatic immunity for you. You might get away with it because it looks like there actually could be a war breaking out.
Key thought about his strange dream. Symbolically, it could mean that the violent water in the dark was a strong power ripping Key away and bringing him into the mess that is war. Humans really are just ape-descendant trash, he thought. Angered, the young man already fantasized about shutting down every single brain augmentation in the world. Evil, happiness, and bliss.
We will get close to the super cop tonight. Hopefully, feels a little bit weird to hunt down a hunter. I wonder if he already feels me somewhere in the back of his head tingling. Hokkaido, what do you think? Are you ready to look at this beast of a humanoid creature?
Sure. As long as we can get food before we seek and find him. As long as you don't do anything stupid and get us killed. I am afraid I can't provide much protection if he attempts to bash your skull into mush.
Hokkaido gazed into Key's eyes. His eyes blinked. He was not strong enough. He was weaker, more fearful than the cop, but he also was a friend with vigor to help. He trusted in Key.
We will be as friendly as we can. We will also avoid any conflict. You have to tell our men outside that they can't stay here or whatever. We can't have them around there. We would only look threatening.
It's impossible. It is an order from the boss. They will have to come with us for now. Sorry, I can't do anything about it.
Hokkaido shrugged.
Okay, tell them to come one by one into the room. I will adjust their brain augmentations.
Key ordered with his naked, skinny feet dancing on the bed sheet. His finely dressed men walked one by one in the room as the evil genius adjusted and modified their cyberbrains. It was symbolic. He could have done it with them unaware standing on the other side of the door, but he wanted to have a personal interaction with them. He didn't want to use them as tools. When he looked into their eyes, at their hands, shoulders, faces, when he felt their scent, fear, vibe, aggression, or calmness, he measured them up as if they were tools. They were mostly tall and strong men, good fighters with plenty of muscle on the bone. Most of them had merely average minds. 8 men in Hokkaido. That was not even remotely enough to stop the supreme biological machinery that was all rich.
Do we have any weaponry?
He was curious. He wanted to know how much violence they could cause at that moment.
1 EMP gun, 2 high-velocity submachine guns, and 6 handguns.
Hokkaido felt pride in the artillery he had surrounded himself with.
Any prostitutes available or funds specially partitioned for it?
He grinned, stupefied, before Hokkaido could react.
What do you need prostitutes for?
The guard was clearly confused. He himself would rather have a big, tasty meal over a hooker sucking his little noodle.
Just asking. Still cheaper than a catgo. Like, Bama. Yeah, I doubt we could find a whore with a cyber brain for a reasonable price. Those would be top shelf prostitutes, and they would probably be quite paranoid or rather smart about us trying to buy them. Pass me my leather boots. We're going to Chinatown.
Yummy?
Hokkaido. Like a happy dog, got keyed out his black kickers. He put him on and out, they walked down the hotel corridor. And with the sound of the gong, the lot of them arrived at Chinatown. The sun was setting. The orange and red leftovers of the sun clawed into the remains of the almost dark blue sky. The electric dragon floating above the Chinese neon signs exhaled a curious smoke. The stylish and mighty 10-man army dazzled the people around them with a dangerous impression. He, especially, felt a little vulnerable when surrounded by such a gang because it was obvious that he was the leader of that pack. Chinese girls with their dark, beautifully combed hair and silky long dresses in red, blue, and black through looks. A bewitched desire at Key. Not only was he beautiful, but also he seemed to be a man of importance and power. Every single girl that night was willing to take off her panties and squat over Key's evil, beautiful face, to grind her hips back and forth so he could eat her out with his vile snake tongue. If only he would want a small woman with a large power complex next to him just for the void looks of it all. Just for the fashion, for the aesthetic of it. And then eventually, the aimless whore would realize who her red lips around his cock, salivating in confusion, why and how they ended up in an act like that. Blind to the banal truth that that's what they were looking for. Just a man worthy of being sucked off just for a night without love or any particular enjoyment of oral sex. The uncanny necessity of sucking the male genitalia because of a previously produced fantasy forced upon them by culture and society. 2 men in white suits and red ties opened big red wooden doors decorated with marvelous golden dragons for Key and his men to enter the headquarters of a Chinese master. They were led by a short man with dark hair wearing a black kimono embellished with silver buttons through tight corridors with red lanterns and black wooden doors with golden frames. They entered the spacious office of the master. Beautiful chestnut-colored carpets and large porcelain vases filled with pink lotus flowers added to the atmosphere of the room.
Howdy, Master Zen.
Key gave him a hearty smile.
Oh, it is Key. Joe.
The old Chinese master with a long, thin mustache jumped right out of the leather chair and ran toward his friend. For the first time in 10 years, the 2 guards that stood alongside witnessed the master's warmth. He shook his hand and almost hugged the beautiful man that had just entered the room.
How have you been, my friend?
He liked the affection from the old man.
This is the man who once won all the money from me in cards. Every single dollar and yen that I owned. And he gave it all back to me. Can you believe it? He outplayed me so hard that night, and I lost every single bit I had. And he just gave it all back to me. Like that. What a wonderful man you are, Key. Who knows where I would be without you, my friend?
No problem, my friend.
He kept smiling. He was a lot better at poker than the old master. It was a small fortune, but funnily enough, it was everything the master owned at the time. The old greedy fellow got hooked and could not stop losing. Shame mixed with guilt and terror that night, but Key, the angel himself, saved him from the utter misery that he had fallen into.
You are my guest, my favorite guest, but please, sit down.
Mr. Zen gestured at the chairs and sofas in the room for the men to get comfortable in. He then looked at one of his guards and ordered him to get drinks for the visitors, as they certainly had to be thirsty.
So what are you up to these days, my old friend?
Key had parked his bottom on the chair closest to the heavy wooden table. His eyes followed the master walking behind the desk as he sat down and put his hands together.
Oh, the usual, my friend, Key. From geishas to gambling.
The old man smirked behind his thin facial hair.
I guess we will soon be selling weaponry too. A war seems to be on its way. Our civilians might want to protect themselves.
Do you still hack and mod brain augmentation devices?
Key wondered.
Oh, yes, my son. We certainly do that too here. On the other side of the garden.
Mr. Zen coughed.
Can I have a look at the possibilities of your service later on? I am wondering if you could help me determine the brain augmentation of a certain policeman named Ulrich Natter. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh, yes, of course I have. He's somewhat of a legend on this side. A true masterpiece of our kind. The military developed him as a prototype, but since times were so peaceful, he became a highly effective super cop. There is no man more masterful than him in combat. He just has an unfair advantage. So to say.
The old Chinese master rolled the left side of his mustache while floating in his thoughts, mesmerized by how capable Ulrich really was. Then it struck him like lightning. He felt his own shadow crawl up his spine, right up his neck.
Don't tell me you are going against him. That's suicide, my dear friend. Please don't even consider such an extremely phony thought. You don't stand a chance.
Oh, no worries, Master Zen. I am just testing the water. Just gathering some information, you know.
What you are looking for is a weakness. He has no such thing. Don't be foolish, my child. You are wasting your time, I am afraid.
Mr. Zen shook his head in terror. He was seeing Key die before his eyes. What a terrible view. What a beautiful life thrown into trash.
Even so, I ask you to use your laboratory and your men for further research, my dear friend Master Zen.
Yes, surely, my child. Please do as you please and take your time.
Key got up and walked the corridors to arrive at the middle of the building where an enormous and fantastic garden with captivating trees and vibrant exotic flowers bloomed. He walked through the garden and took the elevator to the basement. There, he spent the next 6 hours trying to figure out how to attain the information he sought about Ulrich's brain augmentation. The trouble seemed to be that Ulrich would definitely notice the attempt, and that could immediately result in a complete failure to tame the beast. For 6 hours straight, Ki thought of every possible way he could penetrate Ulrich's brain. The problem was that he needed too much control over it and had too little power to attain any